The story of 20th century Italy cannot be told without the Partito Comunista Italiano, or PCI, a party that shaped the nation's politics, culture, and identity for 70 years. More than a political force, the PCI was a community, a school, and a vision for millions, threading through Italy's most dramatic moments: fascism, resistance, the Republic, and the Cold War. From Gramsci to Berlinguer, its leaders guided the party through persecution, mass movements, and crisis, always seeking an Italian path to socialism. Though the PCI is gone, its legacy still sparks debate and shapes the fabric of modern Italy. The PCI, or Partito Comunista d'Italia, was born in 1921, at a time when Italy was gripped by turmoil and uncertainty. The country was still reeling from the devastation of World War I, with its cities scarred and its people restless, searching for a new direction. Across Europe, a revolutionary wave was sweeping through nations, inspiring hope among workers and fear among the old ruling classes. In Italy, the echoes of the Russian Revolution were felt strongly, fueling dreams of radical change. Amid widespread strikes, factory occupations, and social unrest, the Italian Socialist Party found itself divided. Reformists argued for gradual parliamentary change, believing that socialism could be achieved through democratic means and compromise. But revolutionaries like Antonio Gramsci and Amedeo Bordiga demanded a disciplined, Bolshevik-style party, modeled after Lenin's success in Russia. They believed only a tightly organized revolutionary vanguard could lead the working class to victory. At the Livorno Congress, when the majority refused to accept Moscow's strict conditions for joining the Communist International, the revolutionaries made a dramatic exit. They walked out, voices raised in defiance, singing the Internationale as a symbol of their commitment to global revolution. Outside, they declared the founding of the Partito Comunista d'Italia, a new party dedicated to the cause of proletarian revolution and international solidarity. Their hope was to ignite a socialist revolution in Italy, to transform society and end exploitation. For a brief moment, it seemed possible that the future belonged to them. But this schism fractured the left, weakening its ability to resist just as Mussolini's fascists were gaining momentum. The split left the workers' movement divided and vulnerable. The dream of revolution quickly gave way to a desperate struggle for survival. As fascist violence spread, many socialists and communists were forced underground, facing persecution and repression. The PCI's birth was both a moment of hope and a turning point in Italian history, marking the beginning of a new chapter for the left. It was also the start of a long, dark fight against dictatorship, a struggle that would define generations to come. Mussolini's rise to power in 1922 marked a dark period for Italy, forcing the Italian Communist Party, or PCI, underground. The fascist regime's grip tightened, and the PCI had to operate in secrecy to avoid brutal crackdowns. Members of the PCI faced relentless persecution. They were arrested, exiled, and lived under the constant threat of violence. Many were forced to flee their homes, carrying only what they could, seeking refuge in foreign lands. Antonio Gramsci, one of the PCI's founders and a brilliant thinker, was imprisoned in 1926. Despite the harsh conditions, he continued his intellectual work from his cell. It was here that he wrote the Prison Notebooks, a series of essays that would profoundly influence the PCI and leftist thought for decades to come. Gramsci's writings delved into the nature of power and control. He argued that power was maintained not just through force and coercion, but through cultural hegemony. He believed that for a revolution to succeed in the West, it was essential to build a new, popular culture that could challenge the existing order. His vision was clear. The working class must become a cultural and intellectual force before it could hope to win political power. This meant educating and engaging workers in discussions about their rights and the nature of society. Gramsci died in 1937, but his ideas did not perish with him. Instead, they became the intellectual foundation of the PCI after World War II. His thoughts on cultural hegemony and the role of intellectuals in society continued to inspire and guide the party. Emerging from the shadows of fascism, the PCI was invigorated by Gramsci's call for alliances, cultural engagement, and a long-term strategy. The party sought to build broad coalitions and to embed itself deeply within Italian society. Gramsci's legacy transformed the PCI into a party that aspired to lead the entire nation, not just the working class. His ideas on cultural and intellectual leadership helped shape a new vision for Italy's future. World War II and the resistance gave the PCI new life. Under Palmiro Togliatti, the party's clandestine networks organized partisan groups, becoming a mass force in the fight against fascism and Nazi occupation. Togliatti's Salerno turn prioritized unity with all anti-fascist forces, even the monarchy, to defeat the occupiers. The PCI's role in the resistance earned it legitimacy and prestige. By 1945, it was a mass party, recognized for its patriotism and sacrifice. The blood shed in the resistance washed away old divisions. The PCI emerged as a founding force of the new Italian Republic. After the devastation of World War II, Italy faced the immense challenge of rebuilding its society and political institutions. The Italian Communist Party, or PCI, emerged as a key force in shaping the new republic and drafting the constitution. Under the leadership of Palmiro Togliatti, the party championed workers' rights, social justice, and the protection of civil liberties, helping to lay the foundations for a more democratic Italy. The PCI's influence was felt in the streets, in parliament, and in the daily lives of ordinary Italians, as it sought to represent the hopes of those who had suffered through years of war and dictatorship. For a brief period, the PCI participated in coalition governments, working alongside other parties to rebuild the nation. However, as the Cold War intensified and global tensions rose, the PCI was soon excluded from power, seen as too closely aligned with the Soviet Union by its Western allies. This exclusion marked the beginning of a new era of political struggle for the party. Togliatti responded by reimagining the PCI as a new party, one deeply rooted in Italian society. He encouraged the creation of local clubs, cooperatives, and social organizations that would connect the party to everyday people. This approach, known as the Italian Road to Socialism, sought to blend Marxist ideals with Italy's unique traditions and culture, forging a path distinct from the Soviet model. Unlike many communist leaders elsewhere, Togliatti firmly rejected the idea of violent revolution. He believed that real change could only come through democracy, dialogue, and building broad alliances with other progressive forces. This strategy aimed to win the trust of a wider section of Italian society and avoid the polarization that had torn other countries apart. The PCI grew to become the largest communist party in the West, a remarkable achievement. Yet, its close ties to the Soviet Union brought moments of crisis, especially after the Soviet invasion of Hungary in 1956. Many Italians questioned the party's independence, and protest erupted across the country, forcing the PCI to confront its relationship with Moscow. Despite these challenges, the PCI maintained a strong base of support, especially in Italy's so-called Red Belt, regions like Emilia-Romagna and Tuscany, where the party's message of solidarity and social justice resonated deeply with workers and rural communities. When Togliatti died in 1964, the outpouring of grief revealed the deep emotional bond between the party and millions of Italians. His funeral became a moment of national mourning, symbolizing the PCI's enduring place in the country's political and social life. The identity of the PCI was forged through decades of struggle, a commitment to democracy, and a constant search for an Italian path to socialism, one that would reflect the hopes, dreams, and unique character of the Italian people. The 1970s brought turmoil, protests, strikes, and terrorism. Enrico Berlinguer, the new PCI leader, believed Italy needed broad consensus to defend democracy. Inspired by Chile's tragedy, he proposed the historic compromise, an alliance between communists, socialists, and Christian Democrats. Berlinguer distanced the PCI from Moscow, championing Eurocommunism and NATO. The PCI peaked in 1976, winning over a third of the vote. The compromise never led to a true coalition, but it brought a period of national solidarity. The 1978 murder of Aldo Moro by terrorists shattered hopes for the alliance. By decade's end, the PCI was back in opposition, but had redefined itself for a new era. The 1980s marked a turning point. Berlinguer's focus on ethics, peace, and anti-corruption made him a symbol of integrity. His sudden death in 1984 drew millions to the streets, but left the PCI adrift. The party's traditional base, factory workers, was shrinking, and new movements challenged its old Marxist framework. The Soviet bloc was crumbling, and the PCI's identity crisis deepened. Membership declined, and the party struggled to adapt. Successors failed to recapture Berlinguer's vision or the party's former strength. The era of mass parties was ending. The PCI faced an existential crisis it could not overcome. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 shook the PCI to its core. Secretary Achille Occhetto called for a radical transformation, a new party, a new symbol, and a break with the communist past. The Bolognina turn sparked fierce debate. Many saw it as a betrayal, others as a necessary renewal. After months of soul-searching, the PCI dissolved in 1991. Most members joined the New Democratic Party of the Left. A smaller group formed Communist Refoundation. After 70 years, the largest communist party in the West was gone. The PCI's end closed a major chapter in Italian and European history. Its legacy, however, would continue to shape the left for decades. Decades after its dissolution, the PCI's legacy remains fiercely debated. Critics see it as a threat to democracy, tied to a failed Soviet model. Supporters remember its role in defeating fascism, defending democracy, and fighting for social rights. For many, the PCI was a school of democracy and a community of hope. Its memory lives on in archives, books, and the values woven into the Republic. The left in Italy still grapples with its inheritance. The PCI story is a testament to collective action, ideals, and the search for a better society. Its red thread, though broken, remains part of Italy's history.